The President's announcement was a great announcement, a great day for America. It showed that justice will always prevail no matter how long it takes. I want to take a moment to congratulate the President, congratulate his national security team. I especially want to thank the thousands of men and women in uniform who've worked so hard to bring Osama bin Laden to justice. The reality is we know that thousands of men and women in uniform have spent countless hours throughout the years pursuing him. Some paid the ultimate sacrifice, some lost their lives in that pursuit. Ultimately, yesterday was a great day for America, but also a great day for justice around the world. So I want to add my voice to those that are congratulating the President, his national security team, our men and women in uniform on doing a phenomenal job. Obviously, the battle is not complete. Obviously, the war on terrorism continues, but a very significant victory for America, for our uniformed forces, for our national intelligence organizations as well. I think I joined with many Louisianians in celebrating the news last night. Our thoughts and prayers certainly do go to the victims and the families of those who've lost their lives in this war on terrorism, either on 9/11 or in other events, and those especially that lost their lives on the battlefields across the world. I want to give you some updates, turning my attention to the legislature and the session. I'm going to give you some updates on various items happening this week. First of all, as we do every year, we're sending our letter to the legislature about NGO funding and reminding the legislature about our 4 criteria. That projects must have statewide or substantial regional impact. Secondly, they must have been presented or openly discussed during the session. Third, they must be a state agency priority. And fourth, they must have the proper disclosure published online. And if an NGO project doesn't meet these 4 criteria, we'll veto any funding that is added to the HB1 or other bills for NGOs. Again, this is the same letter we've sent in previous years, and we'll be sending that letter this week to the legislature again. Secondly, I want to bring your attention to the fact that Paul Rainwater, our Commissioner of Administration, has sent a letter. I know many of you have it concerning the OGB proposal, and this is meant to address many of the false rumors, the misinformation that is out there. I made some of these points in the talk I made to PAR on Friday, but I just want to reiterate again why the administration is considering this, why we think this is a good thing for the state to be pursuing. The bottom line is Louisiana is one of only 2 states that currently offers or currently operates its own health insurance plan. We simply think that so as often is the case, when you find out that Louisiana is the only state doing something, that's usually not a good thing for our taxpayers. The bottom line, there's no reason for us to believe that Louisiana, the state government, can operate this health plan more efficiently than the private insurance industry. The reality is that we already offer a number of plans that are already operated by in partnership with the private insurance industry, like the HMO plan, like the HSA plan. We're simply proposing to take the PPO plan, which is currently run by the state with 300 state employees, at a time when other southern states average anywhere between 25 75 employees to operate their insurance programs. We have 300 state employees operating our plan. We think it makes sense to pursue an RFP, see if the private sector can partner with us to do this more effectively, more efficiently. We estimate that we would end up needing less than half of the current positions, about half of the current positions that we currently have running that plan, at a savings of over $10 million a year in administrative savings for the taxpayers, for our employees every year. So we think that it is worth pursuing. We think this simply makes sense. And at the end of the day, this is one more example of doing more with less, being more efficient, more creative, so that we can protect taxpayer dollars, so that we can in our budget protect higher ed funding, K-12 funding, private health care funding. We can do all of that without raising taxes. Part of that is being more efficient. Now, we've not built into our budget any of the proceeds from the privatization, from the sale of this plan, but we do expect that this will be, as we go through a rigorous RFP process, we expect that we will be able to present to the legislature a proposal that will be good for taxpayers and good for employees. Paul's letter points out that there won't be any reduction of benefits. There's been a lot of false information spread out there. There won't be any reduction in benefits. Premiums will only go up based on the cost of health care, and again, this will be subject to a competitive bid process. I reiterated the fact that on Friday, I myself as a state employee participate in the OGB healthcare plans. I'm certainly not going to do anything that reduces benefits or hurts state employees. So bottom line, we think this is a good idea. The vast majority of the states, indeed, Louisiana is one of only 2 states that operates its own health insurance plan this way. And in addition to that, state employees already get health care through private insurance plans today. When they sign up for the HMO plan, when they sign up for these other options, they're already getting their health care. This year it happens to be Blue Cross Blue Shield. Every year that's put out to bid in a different plan, it may be chosen based on who submits the best bid. Bottom line, bottom line, it is a good proposal for taxpayers. It just makes sense to see if there are ways for us to be more efficient, more cost-effective, while still protecting benefits for our state employees. If there's a way to do more with less, we have an obligation to look into those alternatives so that we can protect higher ed and health care. We've got some bills, we've got some package bills that are coming up this week. As I'm going to do through these news conferences, I'm not going to go through every single package bill we proposed. I am going to cover those bills that are being considered this week in committee or later in the process on the floor. Today in Senate Revenue and Fisc, we've got Senate Bill 134 by Senator Claytor that renews and enhances the Technology Commercialization Credit and Jobs Program. This program provides a 40% refundable tax credit for companies that invest in the commercialization of Louisiana technology. It also provides a 6% payroll rebate for the creation of new direct jobs. The proposed legislation extends the program for another 6 years. This is an existing tax credit, converts the refundable tax credits for technology commercialization expenses to rebates in order to deliver the incentive more quickly to companies. Later this week, on Wednesday, in House Criminal Justice, we have 4 of our package bills to crack down on crime, specifically sex offenders. House Bill 49 by Representative Walt Leger cracks down on human trafficking by equalizing the punishment for the person who helps the human trafficker with the punishment for the person who's engaged in the trafficking itself. The legislation will also expand the type of actions that put a criminal under the human trafficking statutes, including the advertisement of a child for sexual purposes. We also have House Bill 55 by Representative Ladrika Thery that targets sex offender use of social media by criminalizing the accessing or using of social networking websites, chat rooms, or peer-to-peer networks by sex offenders who had a certain previous conviction. Secondly, it criminalizes the contacting of a minor through the use of a social networking website, chat room, email, instant messenger, or any device with internet capability by sex offenders, again, who had a certain previous conviction of a sex offense against a minor. The third bill, House Bill 86 by Representative Bodie White, will equalize the penalties for sexually abusing a physically or mentally infirm victim or person over the age of 65 with the penalties for sexually abusing a child under the age of 13. This is going to help to crack down on those who prey on the mentally infirm or the elderly. The fourth bill, House Bill 131 by Representative Ricky Template, ensures the compliance with sex offender laws by making it a violation of a sex offender's registration if they fail to get a driver's license or ID card with sex offender labeled on it, or in the possession of ID that is altered with the intent to defraud, or if they're in the possession of counterfeit identification. Again, closing a loophole. This is, again, part of our annual efforts every year since we've been here. We've brought forth bills to crack down on sex offenders, in part to help make sure that Louisiana is the safest place to raise a family, to raise our children. And again, I'll emphasize, we'll spare no effort to go after these monsters that go after our children. On higher education, on Wednesday, we've got a couple of bills in the House Education Committee. We've got House Bill 537 and House Bill 549 by Speaker Tucker. House Bill 537 is the bill that we have proposed for the consolidation of SUNO and UNO in the city of New Orleans. And just to review the case for this, and obviously we'll have a chance on Wednesday to make this case in greater detail, the bottom line is this. You've got 2 public colleges, 2 public universities, literally blocks apart in the city of New Orleans. Both schools have lost thousands of students since Katrina. Neither school is using their buildings 50% of the time. At the same time, you've got Delgado, a community college that in the past year has had to turn students away because they're literally bursting at the seams and don't have the capacity to educate, that because of the lack of physical space to educate all the students that want to enroll there. You add to that at SUNO and UNO both. At SUNO and UNO both, neither school has acceptable graduation rates, especially at SUNO. You've got the lowest graduation rates in our state, lowest graduation rates amongst its peer group at 8% graduation rate over 6 years. This simply isn't acceptable, and that's why we asked the Board of Regents to consider the situation, to consider a consolidation. The report that came back from a national expert basically said, just to quote one paragraph, basically said, to paraphrase one paragraph, said the status quo is not acceptable and we shouldn't expect different results under the current structure. So that's why we've supported this legislation to create one accredited university with 2 distinct colleges that would then partner with Delgado to offer on one track the kind of PhD and graduate research and exclusive stronger admissions criteria programs that the region needs the region needs to continue to grow its economy. On a second track, and a second college within the university, a different program for those students that may need a little bit additional help to complete their four-year studies, but then very importantly, a combined approach with Delgado so that students who go into a single point of entry can be referred to the resources that will help them succeed. If they're not yet ready for a four-year degree, they can start at Delgado's campus and then later transfer to this new university, which will then be placed under the University of Louisiana system. The bottom line is this: our students deserve better. You know, as a state, we rank 13th worst on what we spend on students who drop out with 1 year or less of education. Spent over $200 million between 2003 and 2008. The current situation is bad for students. They often drop out with debt, without the degree, without the skills they need to get a good paying job. It is bad for taxpayers. And the bottom line is this. Bottom line is this. The experts have already told us the status quo is not acceptable, and we shouldn't expect different results with the current structure. The students of Louisiana deserve better. The taxpayers of Louisiana deserve better. This is a part of what we talk about when we say we must build a better Louisiana for our children. And as I remarked on Friday, I can't explain to an outsider, if somebody was visiting our state for the first time, I can't explain to them why we have two colleges blocks apart, especially when neither's at capacity, especially when you've got such low graduation rates, and especially when you've got a community college that desperately needs more space to accommodate the growth in enrollment and interest in its programs. It just makes sense. I know there'll be folks on Wednesday that'll try to make this about race, politics, turf, management boards. This is about what's doing best for what is best for our students. It's not about what's best for the administrators or others or board members. This is about what's best for our students. The second bill by Speaker Tucker that'll be up in House Education Committee is 549. Obviously, that first bill, by the way, 537, requires a 2/3 vote from both the House and the Senate, obviously, to become law. 549 is what we're calling GRAD Act 2.0. It builds on the GRAD Act legislation we passed last year that builds on higher education accountabilities and reforms. This strengthens the GRAD Act contracts negotiated between the Board of Regents and each institution this past fall. It prioritizes key student success metrics, for example, graduation rates, retention rates, and percent completers, making them required for successful performance on contract targets. In other words, we're prioritizing student success among all the different variables measured in these contracts. Additionally, it also grants operational autonomies in purchasing, personnel, facilities, and investment in a three-tiered structure based on university performance. You may remember the Flagship Coalition asked for certain flexibilities. They said that given those flexibilities, they felt like these universities could save millions of dollars, be more efficient. We're willing to give structured flexibility in return for better performance. On Thursday, the Senate Education Committee will take up the Senate companion bills to the GRAD Act legislation and the bill to merge UNO and SUNO. The UNO-SUNO bill is Senate Bill 183 by Senator Appel. The GRAD Act 2.0 is Senate Bill 241 by President and Senator Joel Chasson. On Wednesday, the House Health and Welfare Committee will consider our package bill, House Bill 586. This by Representative Hoffman is scheduled for a vote. This bill is important to protect the rights of women and ensure they're fully aware of the options available to them when considering an abortion. One more step to help protect innocent human life right here in the state of Louisiana. Finally, today we'll be filing our capital outlay bill. We'll be making some announcements later today in Shreveport and Morganza, Shreveport and Houma about some important funding for I-49 and the Morganza Coastal Restoration. We will, over the next couple of days, also be sharing much more detailed information about the capital outlay bill. I will just point out one thing. We have invested in this bill $91 million in higher education projects. That includes right here in Baton Rouge. I'll just mention one project I know is of great interest to many folks in Baton Rouge. That includes the renovation of the French House at LSU, $1 million towards that project, with another $4.325 million in Priority 5 funds for a total investment of $5.33 million. This has been a top priority on the LSU campus, I know, for some time. It is an important part of their Honors College program. And again, we'll be giving you more details. We'll be getting more details on the capital outlay bill. The division will be releasing more details about what's contained in that bill.